Hello, good morning. I'm Courtney Bailey, the Grant and Scholarship Manager at the Colorado Restaurant Foundation and currently the point person for all things Colorado ProStart. I'm joined today by Laura Shunk, the Foundation President, and our guest speaker, Carrie Baird, who I'll introduce in just a moment. But first, I want to thank you so much for joining us for our virtual masterclass. The masterclass is the second part in a series we'll be holding over the next 2 months. We all know that COVID-19 has made this an incredibly challenging year. For many of you, you've probably spent much time of the year learning remotely and unable to access much hands-on learning as you normally have. We applaud you for your resilience through this crisis. Master classes are meant to connect you with hospitality industry professionals so that you can explore different career paths and learn relevant skills from the experts. In normal years, we would try to facilitate and connect you in person. Because we can't do that this year, we've created the Colorado ProStart virtual masterclass series so that you can see a peek into different culinary and hospitality worlds and meet some of the stars of the industry. With that, please allow me to introduce Chef Carrie Baird. Since her formal education at Corden Bleu, Carrie has had many culinary adventures that has led her to her true love, Colorado. She has collected many accolades along the way, including James Beard Award finalist in 2020, finalist on Top Chef Season 15, judge on Top Chef Season 18, and successor on Beat Bobby Flay. Carrie is currently a chef and partner at the Ginger Pig, a modern Asian restaurant in the Berkeley neighborhood. She values local farmers and ranchers and focuses her menus on sustainable ingredients. Carrie is going to talk about everything she's learned and give us a pasta demonstration. If you have any questions or comments for Carrie, please use the Q&A function in your Zoom window. We will be recording this masterclass and we will send the link to teachers within 24 hours so students can view it on demand. Without further ado, I turn it over to Chef Carrie.
Thanks, Courtney. Hi, everybody. Again, thank you so much for having me. I am here at the Ginger Pig where I'm a consulting partner. We do Asian street food. We're in the Berkeley neighborhood and we opened up in late October. And so right in the middle of COVID. So, you know, on opening a restaurant is always so difficult. And then on top of everything, they threw COVID at us. So luckily, Asian street food is a really great food to go. So when we had 0% occupancy, we did pretty good with, Chinese food is awesome to go. But so ever since then, we've just been plugging along and I'm just so excited to be here. And today, I am going to show you pierogi. Pierogi is a dish that's, one, delicious and two, very close to my heart. I, as Courtney said, was on Top Chef Season 15. Well, I was a finalist on Top Chef Season 15, which was Colorado based. And then I also, and it's airing as we speak, Season 18, I'm a judge. Because of COVID, Top Chef had to pivot. And normally they would bring in chefs from all around the world. But this year with COVID happening, we had to be quarantined. So they brought us all in. I did 8 episodes. It was really fun. Tonight is episode 3. So if you're watching Top Chef, it's this evening. Excuse me. Anyway, so on Top Chef Season 15, in the second episode, sorry, spoiler alert, everybody. Second episode, I made pierogies and I won. I won the challenge. It was a hit. And pierogies is something that my grandmother made for me. Pierogies is something that I made my first executive chef job, which was 6 years ago now. I put pierogies on the menu there and it was a hit and I love to eat them. I love to make them. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna say is I will email this recipe over. So when you guys receive this on demand, you also have the hard print of the recipe. So because we don't have a ton of time, the first step with pierogi. So does everybody know what pierogi is? It's a dumpling in the dumpling family, in the pasta family. And so it's a nice egg and flour dough. And then it has this version that I'm gonna make for you today is potato and sharp white cheddar filling. And I made this last night because it's important that when you use russet potatoes, so there's 2 types of potatoes. Well, there's a bazillion types of potatoes, but there's two classifications. There's waxy and starchy. Pierogi uses a starchy potato, which is a russet potato. As Idahoan, I also love russet potatoes because that's our favorite potato. So I made this last night. I took 1 pound of russet potatoes, I peeled them, I added them to cold salted water, bring it up to a boil, reduce it to a simmer until they're fork tender. I then strained them and let them just sit out, and so they steam to evaporate all that extra. So all that's left is delicious potato. In that, you stir in butter and very sharp white cheddar cheese and let that cool. You can, and some purists say that you need to use a ricer perhaps to get the filling of your pierogi really super smooth. I like mine a little bit chunky. So I just sometimes I use my hands, sometimes a wooden spoon. But if you really want to get crazy, you can push it through a potato ricer and get a silky, smooth, fluffy potato. So dealer's choice there, but I'm more of chunky rustico. So when you're making this is what you would do first, and you would set it aside in the walk-in to cool. Next, we are going to make the dough. Now, this dough is really interesting and different from a regular pasta dough. One, it's not just flour and egg. We're going to add the secret ingredient is sour cream. And the other thing we do is add hot water. I'm not totally sure the magic that happens in there, but we get this awesome, very flavorful, very, very soft, chewy stand-up dough. It's awesome. So we're going to weigh in grams today. First thing we do is we have just simple AP flour. Obviously, when you're buying ingredients for cooking at home, just buy the best you can afford. That's my best advice there is, if from flour all the way up to caviar, like just buy the best that your budget allows, because then you're going to get the best product, because good ingredients equal good food. 400 grams of AP flour. I'm using my little cheat sheet here. And then we do 55 grams of sour cream. So when we bake things, when we make pasta dough, we use a gram scale, but all you culinary students probably know that. But we do that, just to make sure things are very accurate. Sorry, I have an itch on my eye. Very accurate, very consistent. 55 grams is not very much. It's like a big tablespoon. Next, we add 1 whole egg. I and my cameraman, who's also my partner / boyfriend Blake, have 7 chickens right around the corner. So this is one of theirs. It's delicious. And then the last piece is hot water. This is hot tap water. You don't necessarily need your kettle to come to a boil, but you just want nice, as hot as your tap is going to let it get hot water. 100 grams. Okay, everybody's in. I'm going to use a rubber spatula here. Like, can you see? And just start mixing. You could do this in typical pasta fashion where you make a nice big well and then you put all your ingredients or your eggs and egg yolks on the inside. But I use a bowl, and just when it comes together, I'll get my hands in there. And if you've ever made pasta or pie dough, one thing you know is that the wet to the flour in the recipe could vary day by day. It's kind of cold or rainy here today. So for whatever reason, my dough feels a little dry, and that's fine. So just know that just because it says 100 grams doesn't actually mean it's only going to be 100 grams. So I'll keep my bowl of warm water nearby and just add about a tablespoon at a time and just keep working it. I remember my grandmother, she would make these, and it was a special occasion. It would be like Christmas or your birthday. And it was so fun because she would make this big pile of dough and roll it out on her big table, and you got to help. And it was fun. Grandma time, family time. And then at the end, you had this amazing dumpling, which is so fun. So I've got a shaggy dough here. And obviously, you know, my hands are clean. I washed them before we got started. So you're just gonna use your hands and bring it all together. Be patient with your dough. The flour obviously is very dry. So let it hydrate, give it a minute. It might not be instant, but that's a-okay. And I'm just gonna, I can feel it. It might need a little bit more flour, or sorry, excuse me, water, but we're pretty close. And again, we just do little bits at a time. The one fun thing about dough is it's forgiving. If you do add too much, it's easy enough to add flour, easy enough to add more water. So I'm gonna knead this, and I'm gonna try to get all this good stuff in there. I wish you could smell this. The sour cream in here adds a nice, real kind of, I guess, sour flavor to it. Incredible. Yeah, it's really nice. It's coming together. So while I knead this, Courtney, does anybody have any questions yet? Or do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I do have a question for you. So how did you get started on TV? And what's the best way for someone to get started that way?
On TV specifically? Well, let's see. My aspiration, so when I was dreaming of going to culinary school and making a living as a chef, you know, what was available to me was the Food Network. I grew up on Ina Garten and, Sandra Dee. And so I loved that, but it never occurred to me that that was something that I could do or even really wanted to do. Like if you wanted to be on TV, you went to acting school or something like that. And that was never on my radar. So that being said, I don't know. I was just going through my culinary world, and I was the executive chef at this cute little restaurant here in Denver. And I got a phone call, and the manager who answered the phone on the landline at the restaurant was like, "Chef, there's a producer from Top Chef on the phone for you. Like, would like to know if you would like to try out for Top Chef." I was like, "What?" And honestly, I'd never really watched Top Chef. I mean, I knew what it was, but I'd never watched it. And so I took the call, and sure enough, it was the casting production from Top Chef and wanting to know if I wanted to submit an application. And it's a really long process. When you audition or try out for Top Chef, you have this questionnaire this big. And then I cooked for producers that were here in Denver, and it was scary. They had a camera, and I'd never done anything like that. And I guess they liked my food, because then they sent me out to LA, where I went into this room, and there were these producers sitting all over. Sit you down in the middle all by yourself. It's terrifying. And actually that first year I didn't get cast. They were like, "Thanks, but no thanks." So I just chalked it up to, it was a fun experience. I got a free ride to LA for a couple days. And 1 year later to the day, the same lady called back and said, "Would I be willing to apply again?" And I said, "Sure." So I didn't even try very hard. I submitted the same video. I submitted the same paperwork. I didn't update anything. I mean, I was still at the same job, so it wasn't that lazy, but and I don't know, I got cast, and what do you know, it was the Colorado season. So, and I didn't know that until I was cast, but for whatever reason, they chose me to represent my beautiful city of Denver and state of Colorado. And what an honor. It was so fun. But my advice for somebody who wants to, get into TV, I don't know, I think the love for culinary has to be first, and then a desire to, be on TV second. And then, there's different ways to go. My TV, anytime I'm on TV, it's competition based. I don't know how I became good at competition cooking, but I am. Hence, Beat Bobby Flay and, doing well on Top Chef. But I don't know how to recommend somebody practice that, because it's very difficult. And, there's also a lot of heartbreak, but when it's fun, it's so fun. How's that for an answer for you, Courtney?
That's perfect. That's perfect. And going back to what you were saying about a love for the industry, why did you decide to pursue a career in this industry? And what do you like most about this industry?
Well, I decided, the industry actually kind of picked me. I was, when I graduated from high school, I, went to university, and I wasn't the greatest student. I had a hard time, I got totally decent grades, but I didn't love being academic. It was hard for me. It was a real test of discipline. And so I went to 1 year of university, Boise State, go Broncos. And so I just wasn't, I didn't feel it. And so I came to Colorado because I wanted to be a professional skier. I moved to Breckenridge with some friends, and I wanted to, I wanted to snowboard. I wanted to ski. I wanted to make a life doing that. And how you can support yourself spending your whole day on the mountain is you wait tables or cook at night. And that's exactly what I did. So I was a waitress or server for years, but I felt pretty unfulfilled by that. And so I switched to the back of house, and it was awesome. It was like, it clicked. I was happy. I was creative. And then I decided to go to culinary school. And that's when I left Breckenridge to go to Portland, Oregon, to the Cordon Bleu. And I got my associate's degree there. And I was in Portland for 2 years. And right when I graduated, the first thing I did is hightail it right back to Colorado, right back to Breckenridge. And from there, because I had a culinary degree, I climbed the ladder at Vail Resorts pretty fast. I was, next thing I knew, I was the executive sous chef in charge of hospitality up there. And it was a great job. It was really super. I oversaw weddings. I oversaw, when you're skiing and you go and chili and a bread, like that was, I took care of that. And so it was good. But I wasn't even 30. Am I a good line cook? I didn't even really know. And so I came down to Denver. I got a job with Jen Jasinski. And that's where I stayed for 4 years. I eventually became a sous chef for her. And I started at Rioja. I was a sous chef at Euclid Hall. I helped open Stoic and Genuine. And then from there, I got my first executive chef job. I'm going to change pace real fast. Normally, I would let my beautiful dough rest a little bit longer than that. But because we're here and we're going, I am going to get started on rolling this out. Nice sprinkle of RAP flour. Let me clear my space a little here. This dough can rest overnight. The best case scenario, the minimum case would be 1 hour. But like we said, we've only got 1 hour all in. So get your trusty rolling pin out and let's go for it. One thing that resting does is it allows the gluten to relax, if you will, rest, and it allows it to hydrate. My counter is a little tall for me. Normally you get a little bit of leverage. That's the word I'm going for. So yeah, you can tell when you haven't rested your dough enough because this is such a soft dough with all that fat and sour cream in it that it just rolls right out. But it's all right, it'll just take a minute. While I roll this, Courtney, any more questions?
Yeah, you kind of talked about, climbing the ladder. So what kind of attitude and skills are required for our students to climb this achievement ladder?
Well, gosh, I think I'll answer this question more on the other side of the table. Like, what do I look for in, potential line cooks turning them into sous chefs and such like that? Like the first thing, the only thing that I cannot teach you is a willingness for more, drive, a passion. You can't teach work ethic, and in culinary, work ethic is everything. The person that gets there early, the person that strives to be great. My boyfriend Blake, he always says when he was up and coming, his goal, he would look at the room and be like, I'm going to be the best cook in here. And he would not stop. He would not let off the gas until that was true. And so if you do, if you think of it like that and you actually achieve that, and I'm talking when you're the best cook in the room, that includes the sous chefs and the chef themselves. Like when you can achieve that level and then your own discipline, you're going to go far. And then as far as, hotel and stuff, like a hotel's great. Like that's such a great place to learn to do large numbers and things like this. But my biggest piece of advice for a culinary school grad is to find a chef who's going to be patient and kind and willing to teach you. There's, culinary school is wonderful, but the greatest thing you can do is find a mentor. Find somebody who, cooks food that you enjoy, that has a work ethic that you can learn from, and is going to give you opportunities to grow, not only, in your food, but professionally. And then, and see as many kitchens as you can. Take stages, go travel the world, go to Europe for a year, go to New York City and see how you measure up with the big dogs, stuff like that. So the dough is winding me.
That was excellent advice too, Carrie. You're doing great.
What was that, Courtney? Sorry, I was kind of laughing.
I said that was excellent advice. I think our students are going to take a lot from that. While you're still doing that, we have a question that's come in on our Q&A, and we know you're famous for your fancy toast. How do you put together a gourmet toast?
Ooh, what a hard question. Well, as with anything, the basics, the base is the most important, So for my gourmet fancy toast, I always start with the best bread I can find. I am a sucker for good sourdough. I like tart. I like, that crunchy crust, the chewy middle. So a beautiful sourdough is step one. And then step two, what season is it? What's the occasion? How tall do you want it to be? What else? Gosh, that's a tough question. As for culinary students and prospective chefs, like I always say to myself, like, what do I have here that's got to go? Is something coming to its, are those ramps getting old? I'm sorry, technical difficulty. I'm okay. Yeah. But what's in the walk-in or the cooler that needs to be done, needs to be cooked. So that's a great place to start. And then, I don't know, that's a tough question. Just my inspiration comes from what's being asked of me. Is it for a wedding? Am I cooking for some famous chef like Tom Colicchio, Wale Dufresne, like who's it for? But I always, when people are watching, when you're being judged, when it's a competition, don't reinvent your wheel. Like do something that you know how to do, that is going to work. Don't be like, I've never made pork belly and I'm going to try it when people are watching. Like that's not the best answer there. Okay. Can you guys see my dough here? It's about, gosh, I don't even know. It's about the width of maybe 2/4. And then I have, the next step is a ring mold. This is, how big is that, Blake? Like 3 inches? Yeah, maybe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch out and get them as close together as I can. Oh, in the meantime, I'm going to get my water boiling. Being a chef, it's all about multitasking. So I say to myself, while I do this, what could be working? While I do this, the water could be coming to a boil. So, and I normally don't boil dumplings in a wok, but I'm at work and I don't have an induction burner pot that will boil water. Anyway, so if you're wondering, if you even saw the wok. Okay, so I'm going to use as much of this dough as I can, really get them in there. Courtney, did I answer your inspiration for fancy toast well enough?
You sure did. Yes, you did, Jeff.
That's a tough question. This dough smells so good. It's raw dough and it smells good. It's such a fun dough. Like, you could cut this. Did anybody eat or make like stroganoff with their parents when they were little, their grandma? You could cut this dough into strips and have your egg noodles for stroganoff, which is just phenomenal. So good. Yeah, this is one of my favorite all times quick doughs. And then, so all this scrap that I'm pulling, you can absolutely rest this up, wrap it back in your plastic, and go again. There's no need to discard this. Or you can also roll it out and cut it into strips and make any other type of, such a fun dough. Okay. So I have a little rounds here. And if once you cut them out, if they're a little thick, just use your fingers and round them out a little. So, you know, the fun thing about pierogi is it's not a paper thin dumpling. It's not like wonton thin, you know. This is a good Scandinavian thin. Okay. These are really great. Just have a couple more to push out and then we'll fill them and pinch them. My water is working. Do you guys use induction at your culinary school? It's this really cool, is it infrared lake? Is that what it is? Electric some sort? But it only works on certain pots and pans. Magnets. A little. Okay, looks great. Next, I have my filling here. So this potato filling is, like I said, I made it last night. It's cold. It's delicious. I tasted it. It's like mashed potatoes. Everyone gets a nice little pile of it. Because it's cold, it's easy to work with. And, you know, put a generous tablespoon in there. If they come across a nice big chunk of potato, that's okay. Because it's well seasoned. That's also probably the best tip I would give anyone, is taste your food. Add salt, like toe that line between well seasoned and over seasoned, because that, my friends, will break you or make you. Did I say that right? You know, learn your edge of salt. Well seasoned food is, I can't stress it enough. There's nothing more disappointing than going out to dinner and having something underseasoned when all it takes is for you to taste it. It's such a simple fix. And well-seasoned food is, you know, I don't know. Taste your food, guys. That's the biggest takeaway. Oh, Courtney, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, so we got a few more in the Q&A.
Yeah.
We have a student who's a senior. She wants to know what kind of advice you would give to her if she's aspiring to open her own restaurant one day.
Ooh. Well, you know, for me, my whole life, I remember being little and my dad and I daydreaming about the diner that we were going to open. And so for as long as I can remember, self-employment, i.e. restaurant ownership, is the goal, the main goal. And so my advice, one, is you're on the right track. You're young, you're starting culinary school or finishing up culinary school. I would say, you know, before jumping in and in starting a restaurant, you need to pay your dues. You need to be well trained. And as Chef Jen, my mentor, she always said, food is the easy part. There's so much more to mature than the food. The food is the easy part. The food is what you're passionate about, so what you don't mind doing, but it's the other stuff. It's, legal, insurance, linens, grease traps, electrical, the bar, like schedules, employees, which is the hardest one. So I'd say, work on your craft, hone your skills as, a chef, but take business courses, learn about tax law. And going back to my original advice is, find a mentor who is doing what you want to do and take notes. And don't just focus on the food. Get some front of house experience, be a bartender, be a maitre d', be a host, all of that. That's some of the best advice. Food is the easy part. So restauranting is hard, especially in these times when rent is so high. Everybody, staffing is so difficult. Everybody, wants to be called chef before they're quite there. So it's hard to find line cooks and things like that. But, if that's what you want, don't stop until you get it. That's probably, that's what I'm doing. See what I'm doing here, everybody? I wet the one edge and then I pick it up off because I'm going to squeeze the whole thing around it. And then I'm pinching my filling in there. Now, how hard to pinch, you say? I'm pinching so this seam is the same thick as the rest of the pasta. So you don't have a big thick crust, like a pizza. This is as thick as this is. Does that make sense? And then I set it and I established the little base right there. So wet the finger, not a ton of water. It's a nice wet dough. Push your dough down in there. And then I just pick it up and I just pinch and pull it on around. You can, pinch these, form these in any way you like. This is how I do it. I just kind of like the rustico version of this, but you could get, yeah, stegosaurus. You can make these look any way you want. I was about to bust out a dumpling shape, but I don't want to embarrass myself in front of all you nice people. Do you know how to do a good dumpling shape? Oh yeah, you guys want to learn a culigione? This is one of my all-time favorite shapes. Okay, I haven't done it for a while, so bear with me. Okay. Let me think how to start. So what you do is you fold over the middle, and we're doing a French braid. And then you fold that over, and then I grab some of this and fold this, and fold this, and fold this. It's like a French braid. And then when you get to the end, you just kind of twist it. And if you've got excess, twist it off. A culigiones. That's pretty good. Not my best one. I'll try another one. It's easier with, I'll get a little bit of water here. This is a shape I did at Bordeaux for, I don't remember the pasta, but it was potato, yeah. You guys see how I'm just kind of folding that back and forth? There's an exaggerated version of it. Yeah, cool. Good idea, Blake. All right, my water's about to boil, so I'll just make a couple more. Courtney, any more questions?
Yeah, you were kind of talking about how things have changed in this climate. So what is the hospitality industry job outlook as we consider recovering from COVID-19, the pandemic?
How's the job outlook look?
Yeah.
Yeah, from where I stand, like as an employer?
Yeah, totally. What are you seeing? Are you in need of a lot of employees right now?
Well, so the gov just made, the governor, we say the gov, the gov just opened this up starting next week to 100% capacity. However, with a 6-foot distance. So for us here at the Ginger Pig, that doesn't make a very big difference. But staffing is hard. I'm not sure where everybody went in this past year because, you know, Blake's restaurants, for instance, they laid off some 200 people or something, and they have recouped just a small percentage of that. So where did you know, our chef de parties and the dishwashers and all that kind of stuff go? So, you know, staffing has always been an issue, has always been very challenging, but it seems as though it's going to be difficult coming into the spring and summer. The one thing that I can say that has been a positive of all this is, you know, for years, for centuries, the front of house and the back of house wage difference has always been huge. You know, servers get paid minimum wage and then they make tips, and they would make, you know, sometimes 50, 75% more annually than cooks do. And one thing I can say that I'm really liking is I'm seeing, you know, full house tip pools. I'm seeing wage increases for back of house. And, you know, just above all, we're just trying to bridge that gap. Like, you know, front of house versus back of house. Like, there's just no reason for it to be such an obvious difference, you know? So that has been really great. Yeah. Can you guys hear Blake when he talks?
Yeah, we can hear him a
Okay.
little bit.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he just answered a little piece of that too. So for everybody that's listening, Blake, who I'm talking about, can you show yourself for fast? This is my boyfriend slash partner, but he owns Senior Bear and Mr. Oso here in Denver, and is also a culinary graduate and also a good friend of Laura Shunk. And but so he's, you know, a good sounding board for me, a good advice giver, lots of the same challenges every day. So, but yeah, so to wrap up that question, I think that, you know, where did all the cokes go? Or, you know, so I see so many places revamping, we're hiring, but it hasn't been easy thus far, but it's still a little early, no need to panic just yet, but, you know, we're going to need to amp up our staffs here soon. So we'll see.
Chef Carrie, a lot of our students in this time have been spending, you know, a lot of their energy on getting certifications and preparing for the industry to open again. So what can they do to stand out while they're pursuing jobs in this industry? What can they do now in high school?
What can they do now in high school to stand out? Well, obviously experience is king, but everybody starts from somewhere. So, you know, I actually saw a friend the other day who has a 17-year-old son, and he went for his first job. And so he said he was on Craigslist, he's trying, applying, nothing, nobody gave a chance. So he and his dad stood in a parking lot, waited for the chef to show up, resume in hand, and was standing there. And the guy hired him on the spot. He was just so blown away that his name is Jack, that Jack showed up. He's there, his dad's there. Like, he's just like, the old school way of just showing up with your resume in hands and showing that you're going to be there, that you're interested, that you're, you know, the biggest thing is, you know, it's very expensive to hire people. It's even more expensive to replace them, because you have to think of like the job wanted ads. And then when you train somebody, it's the trainee plus the trainer. So it's two salaries in one. So retention is everything. So if you can convince someone or prove that you are trustworthy and accountable and you're going to come every day, like you'll go so far. It's high. And, you know, so I'd say go in person, hit the pavement, grab your resume and go introduce yourself to a chef. Say, hello, my name is such and such. Like, you know, back in my day, we worked for free. I know that that's kind of a dying tradition, which is okay, because, you know, I gave a lot of time for free. But if you really want a cuisine, if you want to work with a chef, don't take no for an answer. Keep showing up. offer to wash dishes, sweep the floor, you know, experience is everything. So do whatever you can to get in there, and, you know, don't take no for an answer, and be accountable, and, you know, do good work, be honest, be on time, and yeah, and you'll be great. What's cool about culinary and restaurants is, you know, that if you're those things, you can go really, really far. You can have everything you want. You just have to be dedicated and put in your time. Oh, is there a new question?
Got some questions about what did you make when you beat Bobby Flay? Will you walk us through that menu and that recipe?
Sure. So Beat Bobby Flay was really fun. I'm not gonna like spoil the magic of TV for you, but when you beat Bobby, they ask you to be on Beat Bobby Flay, they say, you know, what do you want to challenge him with? And it's not like you get to show up and surprise him. I mean, Bobby was surprised, but the producers and everything, they, you know, I suggested fancy toast, I suggested pasta, I suggested all these things. And what we eventually agreed on was huevos rancheros. My pork green chili is what I think is the greatest green chili in the whole world, the best I've ever had. And so my pork green chili, I made that, and I made chorizo with a meat grinder, all in 20 minutes. Pork green chili, chorizo. I did tortillas 2 ways. I did a really soft flour and then a corn crunchy. So it was like double texture, kind of like a gordita crunch. Perfect sunny side up eggs, crema, micro cilantro. It was awesome. And going into Beat Bobby Flay, my good friend brother Luck had been on Bobby Flay, and he also beat him. And his advice was, he's like, so the judges, because it's true, it's a competition, it's not fixed. He said the judges, they don't know whose is who in the blind tasting. So do your research, look at how Bobby Flay cooks, his colors, and mimic him as best you can. So when those 2 plates are in front of the judges, they're not going to be able to tell whose is who. And so I did just that. Our plates looked almost identical. It was very funny. And so that's what I did. I kind of leaned into Bobby Flay's Tex-Mex flavor profile, and then I just made a spicy, well-balanced, texturally super exciting and fun dish. So Beat Bobby Flay was really fun. If anybody gets a chance to go on that, you should say yes to that show. I'm gonna put my pierogies in the boiling water. One thing when boiling pasta, it's really important you don't overcrowd your pot. The master of American and / French cuisine, Chef Thomas Keller, he has this technique he calls big pot blanching or big pot boiling. And what it refers to is having enough water that the things that you put into it have room to move. So when you know, he always talks about peas. He'll put a pound of peas in like this 22 quart of boiling water so they have room to move, and nicely salted. We don't salt like the ocean, we just salt so it tastes good. So you could drink it, you don't have to, but you could. I mean, salty like the ocean is just too salty. Nobody can drink ocean water. But so these are going to boil for a couple minutes. You know, that is raw dough. So while that's doing its thing, I'm just going to clean up my counter here a little. You know, if you're a new hire at a restaurant, I can't stress enough as being clean. You know, keeping your workspace clean, taking care of your equipment, your knives, your spoons. Like, my friends own a knife company here in town, and they sharpen, and they were telling me the amount of dirty knives that chefs and cooks bring into them to have sharpened is insane. So keep your stuff dry and clean. Like, that is, I mean, such bad form to not love your knife so much to give it and have somebody sharpen it, give it to them dirty. I've never heard of such a thing. But then, you know, and then also work on, do you remember in Ratatouille when the female chef was teaching little Linguini, is that his name? Teaching him how to be a cook. And she's like, keep your arms close to your body and look at your sleeves. Like, keep yourself clean. Try to keep your uniform clean, keep your hands clean. Like, some of the old school chefs, they would have, I'm a bad example because I have flour, but everybody would put their hands out and the chefs would inspect their nail beds, make sure your fingers are clean. You know, like, some of those old traditions are so old and outdated, but there's like so much truth behind that, you know. Be clean, keep your apron clean, take your apron off before you go to the bathroom, just the little things, especially when you're just starting out, you know, like commitment to your personal hygiene and your workspace is where it all started. That's very important. Respect for your craft. Yeah, respect for your tools too. Okay, so my dumplings are floating, so that means they are good to go. I am going to, I'm just gonna bring it right here and set it here because I'm gonna leave them in the water for just a moment while I get my second pan going. So hit start. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, if hopefully Blake's, I'm going to melt a hysterical amount of butter in my this is a saucier pot, something like that is the name of it. I forgot. But in the meantime, I'm going to strain my pierogi. And because I'm going to brown the bottom of these, do your best to get the water off. If you're making these ahead of time, like for restaurant service, perhaps, what I would do is I would set these on a roasting rack and let them come to a cool. And there I would stop. But because we're going to eat them right now, you guys are going to watch Blake and I eat these in a minute. I'm going to just put them in this pot. Oh, yeah. Okay. Should I pull this over here, Blake, so they can see it? I'll pick this up. Okay, these induction burners can get so hot. So I'm going to turn it down. Okay, so now each one of my pierogi have this nice flat bottom. I'm going to set them ever so gently in my buttered pan. Oh, man, if you could smell this, this is just insane. You know, if you're like, oh, it doesn't taste very good, just add butter. This isn't very excited. Just add some butter to it. You'll be well on your way. Oh, okay. So there's, obviously the pierogi are a little wet, so they're kind of spitting. I'm gonna pull it back a little. All right, we're gonna let that do its thing. Okay, so for the restaurant, if I serve these, what I would do now is think about the topping. So what are the flavor profiles I have here? I've got sour cream, potatoes, and cheese. So that is a pretty nice, pretty awesome base for something delicious. On Top Chef, what I did with these is I garnished it with I separated the whey from the curd. So I put ricotta in the dumpling, and then the whey that was left over, which is like the kind of yellowy milk that comes, it's a byproduct of cheese making. I made a vinaigrette and set the pierogi in that. And then on top of that, I did a compote of, caramelized onions. And I feel like I put dates in it and maybe some nuts. If you ask Chef Blake, he's all about texture. He wants crunchy stuff. So, I mean, that's nuts, seeds, and then, fried shells. Yeah, exactly. Like, think about texture. And, a well-balanced dish isn't just well-balanced seasoned. It's well-balanced in texture. Is it, pierogies are so cool because they're warm. They're going to get, what's up? Oh, they're going to get this nice crusty bottom. They're almost done. They're going to get a caramelized bottom. So it's going to have a crunchy bottom, and then it's going to have the warm potato with the cheese. So what Blake and I are going to do to enjoy these in front of you fine folks today is we are going to, where did my spoon go? We're going to enjoy these simply classic grandma style with sour cream. You can take the sour cream, add herbs, anything like that. Gosh, anything you want. And then come and look at the bottom of these. Oh yeah, delicious. Squish those down on your sour cream. The butter smells so good. Oh yeah, and it took an amazing crunchy bottom. as far as portion sizes, I'd say if just 2 people were eating this, I'd probably only give them 3. But I made, what is this, 6? 3 each. And there we have it, guys. So at this point, I would garnish this. Crunchy salt is always a really, really fun, really obvious, oh, thank you, Blake. Really obvious garnish. There's a little texture there. And then, you know, some sort of compote. Herbs are always nice. Nuts, seeds. If you can fry something, like Blake suggested shallots, you can fry quinoa. Gosh, the world is your oyster, you know? Let's try one. Yeah, so good. There you go. I took a really big bite.
Those look incredible, Chef. Those look so good. My mouth is watering over here. While you're chewing, I'll let you think about this next question. You were kind of talking about the different garnishes, but besides the traditional potato filling, what's some other things that you could use for pierogies fillings?
Oh my. What's that?
Braised meat.
Yeah, braised meat would be fun. Think like carnitas or barbacoa. Vegetables, mushroom or a mushroom duxelle. Obviously cheese. Carrot purees would be amazing. Carrot potato, cabbage. What if we put braised cabbage in here? How good would that be? Maybe a little corned beef over it, a little St. Patty's Day style. Yeah, meats, nuts, fruit, vegetables, anything. The coolest part about this is the dough is so yummy and so universal. You can fill it with anything, garnish it with anything, like just, yeah, such a fun dish. Like I would recommend to, a young person to have a handful of things like this in your pocket. I have this recipe memorized so through and through that I could do it like this. I could do it on Top Chef and I got 20 minutes to get it done. Have a few of those things in your toolbox and dishes that you can bust out. You need to impress somebody, chef has to make family meal, things like that. So important. And don't just stop at, don't not finished dishes, but vinaigrettes, sauces, emulsified vinaigrettes, things like that. Ratios, set those to memory. Like, do you know how to make a quick bread on the fly? Pasta dough, pierogi dough, mashed potatoes, set some things to memory and take notes. Moleskins, that's what we call them. Put it in your back pocket. And when you're working somewhere, jot recipes down, things like that. Like Blake and I look back on old moleskins from 10 years ago for inspiration, and they're always there and they're awesome. And, like building blocks, that's where you're at. Yeah. Can I have another bite?
They want to know what Bobby Flay was.
Episode Bobby Flay? Oh gosh, you might have to Google that, guys. Like season 25, episode 2 or something. It was really fun. My Bobby Flay episode, my guest judge was Seth Meyers from The Late Show. He was so funny. We had the best day ever. Like spoiler alert, I beat Bobby Flay, and so Seth Meyers was goofing around with Bobby so hard, and like he's like, I only have winners to my show. Carrie, would you like to come to the late night sometime? It was so fun. I have yet to make it to New York to Seth Meyers' Late Show, but when I do, if you follow me on Instagram, I will document every moment of it. I can't wait.
Season 22, episode 1.
Oh, there we go. Blake looked it up. Season 22, episode 1. And yes, I do fancy toast on it. And I, of course, win with fancy toast because if it's on a piece of toast and I'm there, it's going to be delicious. Yeah. Any more questions?
Wonderful. This has been awesome, Chef Carrie. I think we have one last question. Is pierogies your favorite dish, or do you have another dish that's your favorite to cook for friends and family?
Ooh, pierogies is a very special dish to me. It might be my favorite, yeah, because it's my favorite to eat. And I think that, advice would be, cook things that you want to eat that make you happy first. Otherwise, if there's no story or soul behind it, you can tell, and I truly believe that if it's not made with love, you can probably taste it. So I'm a big proponent of that. So cook things that you're interested in, that you love. But when I'm at home and cooking for my family, we love to cook over, barbecue, wood fire. We love to smoke things. Very few meals at our house don't contain tortillas. So, and lots of hot sauce. But yeah, fresh pasta is, oh, will you hit decline for me? Sorry, my phone just rang. At home, we eat pretty simple, but when I'm in the restaurant, fresh pasta is always where I go.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Chef Carrie said that she will share her pierogi recipe for us to share with all of you ProStart students. We thank you, Chef Carrie, Chef Blake, for being a part of this. This was awesome. And, we really have taken a lot from this. Laura, do you have anything to add?
No, just want to say thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Blake. Sorry I was late. It's so great to see you guys. And thanks for being on with us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, super fun. So thanks for having us, and good luck, everybody. If you have any questions, I'll share my email. And yeah, so if anybody needs any, head start help or advice, I'm right here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a great Thursday.
Bye, guys.